Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another CHATA Stay Home Academy webinar. Today we have our second webinar of the day. We have Dennis Arendel from Google Data Studio, who is going to teach us about how to make use of the interactive business intelligence dashboard, which will be really helpful in these times. We all know that we're very digital, or we became even more digital these days. So these will be very valuable tips and insights on how you can optimize your work. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Dennis Arendel. Take it away, Dennis.
Thank you very much. Okay, so welcome everybody to this course about how to make an interactive business intelligence dashboard with Google Data Studio. The first question is, of course, I'll just introduce myself very briefly. I have a background in public health and health economics, and I work at the Social Insurance Bank, Curacao, SVB, and I'm also a researcher at the Think to Do Institute and a president of the Economist Association. For my work, I do a lot of data analysis on a daily basis using programs such as Excel, SPSS, Google Sheets, and Google Data Studios and SAS. And that's the reason why I'm here today. This here is an overview of the course of today. So the first part will have a brief description of the purpose of a dashboard for those of you who are not familiar with this, why use Google Data Studios, something about Google Docs, and then we're going to the latter part, which is about the example data in Google Sheets, where we're going to go through some examples using Google Data Studios and how to present your information. Also some limitations about this particular software. And finally, we'll conclude with a questions and answer part. So first of all, the purpose of a data dashboard. For this purpose, for this part, I shared a link about the dashboard we're going to use today. So you can visit this link directly and get a feel for it yourself. And I'm also going to show you guys briefly what a dashboard is. So this right here, this interface here, this is what you call a dashboard. It's called a dashboard similar to what you have in a car, where you can see how much energy your engine is using, how much gasoline you have left, etc. All those factors together, those form your dashboard in your car. Well, in the data world, it's the same idea, that you have a dashboard that provides you with some key information about your data of your organization. So we're going to run here through a few examples of what you could do. I'm just going to first show you what a dashboard is in general. So this is a dashboard. I use an example of CHATA data. You can see you can click on different parts of the dashboard, and then you'll get different metrics, different data displayed to you. And the idea is that this data here will be created by people who analyze data and that create reports. But rather than a report where I see a chat coming in, rather than a report where it's static or the information doesn't move, in a dashboard, you can actually play with the information. So just to show you, for example, if this is my dashboard here, I can choose, for example, the user can choose to select only these hotels. And the dashboard, the numbers in the dashboard will adjust accordingly. If I decide, well, I want more years in my information, I can just click on it and you'll see that the numbers adjust accordingly. The same thing goes for departments and all the different pages. So the dashboard allows you to get a highly customized information flow to your users. And it is a good substitute for people that work a lot with Excel files, that send Excel files around in the organization. And then once you're done sending it, the person who received it, for example, your boss will say, well, it's nice, but now I want to know the data for last year. Or it's nice, but I want to know the details of this month. And so then rather than making all these new Excel files all the time, you create a dashboard in which you put all the data, and then the user that you present it to can themselves pick and choose in a very easy, in a very intuitive way, the information that is relevant to them specifically. So that is the brief introduction to the dashboard. We'll go back to the presentation. Reasons why to use Google Data Studio. Well, the first obvious reason is it is free. It is easy and quick to set up. It is relatively easy to learn. It is easy to share your reports with others. And we'll get more on that in the next part. It is easy to access from anywhere because it's all internet-based, it's all cloud-based. It has a high integration with other online services. For example, the Facebook advertising program can directly put data in Google Data Studios. The Google Ad program can directly put data in this program, etc. So it's high integration with other services. And lastly, Google is a leading technology and big data company. So they absolutely know what they're doing with this tool. And we can only expect that this tool is going to get better and perhaps even dominate the world of digital dashboards. So these are some good reasons, I think, convincing to at least be aware of Google Data Studio. So before going to Google Data Studios, I would like to briefly go over Google Docs and Google Drive, because before understanding Google Data Studios, it's relevant to at least know about these software. So what Google essentially has done is that they have more or less made their own version of what we know as Microsoft Office, and they have made this on the cloud. And this version, so if you make, for example, a Word document, you write an article in a Word document, you can upload it in Google Drive, which is a storage, and then you can edit it in Google Docs. And Google Docs is then the equivalent of Word, Google Sheets is then the equivalent of Excel, and Google Slides is the equivalent of PowerPoint. Google Slides is the exact program that I'm using right now. But if now it's in the cloud, but if I download it, Google will automatically convert it to you to the Microsoft version, or I think even the Apple version. So you will get automatically adjusted to whatever you're using. And the advantage of this program here is that you can use all these programs online, and you can edit them always from different devices or share them across multiple people. So you can have one Excel sheet or one Word document and have multiple people edit them at the same time and have it visible to everybody, depending on how you like it to be seen. And Google Data Studio works according to the same principles. So it's part of the Google Docs family, you could consider it. So we're going to go to some example data that I prepared for this lecture using Google Sheets, which is the equivalent of Excel. And Google Data Studio is, of course, highly integrated with Google Sheets. So for this purpose, we're going to go to the example data I provided. And that is in a folder such as this folder here. So this here is the folder. And this is a Google Drive folder. You can see this is the Google Drive. And you see I have here one Google Word document. So a Google Docs. So this is just plain text, which looks like this. Here I have the notes of this lecture. If you're interested, you can always scroll through these notes and get more information for yourself. This here is the presentation I have open now. And I will start our example by using, by showing you guys what the source data looks like. So again, this over here is the dashboard. It looks nice. And so you have all these nice graphics and all these nice tables. But all this information comes from 3 different sources. And I'll show you what those sources look like. So this is the first source. This is a Google Sheet file. As you can see, it looks very similar to the program Microsoft Excel. You see that the data is highly structured. You have here a column called date and the occupancy rate, which meaning how full a hotel is during a certain period, the average daily rate of that hotel in dollars, and the revenue per available room. So this is one data source. And you see as I scroll down, it's quite a lot of data. At least it's quite a lot of data. So of course, you can fill this with thousands of rows. But for our purpose, I have 65 rows of data here to highlight to you guys what you can do with Google Data Studio. So this is one source we'll be using. And from here on, I'm just going to show you guys how to make a dashboard like we have here, how to make this dashboard from scratch. All right. So the first thing you need to do is to just go to Google Data Studio. You can just Google that word. And you have to make sure you need to have a Google account. So any account that ends with @gmail.com will be sufficient to get into this program. So this is Google Data Studio. I'm going to click on that. And I just click on here on blank report. And this is where the Google Data Studio will open. And the first thing it's going to do is going to ask me, what is my source of data? Obviously, it needs data. So in our example, we're going to use Google Sheets as our source of data, which is right over here. I'm going to click on Google Sheets, and I select the data that I want. And our file that we're going to use today is hotel industry data. It's a Google Sheets. It's the exact same sheet that I showed you guys just here, which is the one I'm going to open by clicking on this. What is important is that the data you import in Google Data Studios has to be structured, and it needs to have columns. So it needs to have these things are the headers of the columns, and the data needs to be in columns like this. You cannot just have data randomly all over the place. So they need to be structured in columns for it to be analyzed. So I'm just going to click here on Add. And then Google will ask me to confirm that I'm going to add this information called Hotel Industry Data Sheet 1 to my report. And I'm going to click Add to Report. So you can see it automatically creates some kind of table here. This is just a random table it creates. We're just going to go briefly through the different areas of this data. So the first thing you see here is you see the different fields of data. We see here date, average daily rate, occupancy, revenue per available room, which is exact same as we had here our headers. So it's just the name of the headers. They will present itself here. And then here on the left, we'll see how we can add certain data, how to add certain data to this information. So let's say I would like to have the date here, but I would like to have the occupancy, the average daily rate in there. So I just drag and drop the average daily rate over here, and you'll see it automatically adjusts itself. So this is a simple table. And I drag and drop the revenue per available room in there. I delete this here. So again, this is just a simple example of the kind of data you can create. If I'm not satisfied with this kind of data, let's say if I want a chart rather than a table, I can always click here and change the chart type. And then the chart type will automatically change. You see now it's a time horizon chart. I can get columns. I can get these types of lines. So it's a lot of variety I can put in there. All kinds of different charts based on my necessity. I'm going back to the table. Another easy feature you can always do is you'll see here our data here is separated by April 1, March 1, February 1, but I would like that data to be aggregated in terms of months. So I don't need to know the individual dates. I just go here and I change it to year, month. You'll see now it has changed to year, month. So now it's April, March 2020, February 2020. I can also change the same information and make it into year, quarter, for example. Or you can see now it's year, quarter, and everything will adjust accordingly. Also the graphs, you see that the graphs are adjusted accordingly. I can just drag and drop things any way that I like. I can copy by copy pasting. I can just copy the same report, paste it here, and for example, use a different style for this report. Copy it again, make this a little bit smaller, and create a different chart. So there's all kinds of variety that you can do with this program here. And I can go here into style, And in style, I can change all kinds of things such as colors and the title bars, etc. If you guys have any questions, by the way, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and then we can attend those questions as well. So once you have a dashboard like this, again, it's very easy to do anything you want. You can just drag and drop everything. If I want to give it a title, I go here to text, I drag and drop. This is the title of my report. So I can just, it's very flexible in that regard. I can make this bigger. I can give it different colors, as you can see. So this is the basic idea of how you make these reports. And again, all this data that we see here is sourced from this Excel sheet here. And I can present the data in any way that is useful to the people that have to consume my reports, the people that I report to, for example, my colleagues or my boss, or consumers, other people that are interested in this data, but find information like this too intimidating to look to, or it's too detailed, too specific, and would rather have their information presented to them like this in a visual way that they can understand. So that is the basic about what this looks like. And I'm gonna now show you guys how to go through this in a bit more detail. So the way you share these reports, so again, the main feature, what's very useful of Google Drive, is that you can easily share reports. The same way that this folder here that I'm using right here with the different files that I made available for this lecture, you can use the same principle to share your data report. So here it's just a matter of clicking on share over here, and I can decide who I want to share with. I can share by selecting a specific email address. That is a Gmail email address. You can only share to specifically to Gmail email addresses. So you can decide who I want to share it with, if it's private, or I can decide to make it open for everybody. Everybody that has the link, so I go here to manage access. I can decide that everybody who has this link here will be able to see my report. And this is what I did in preparation for this lecture. So I made a link available through CHATA that allows anybody that wants to see this information, that allows anybody to do that. I see here a question. Can you use MS Excel files in Google Data Studios by Ronald Shore? All right, so the question is, can you use Excel files in Google Data Studios? The answer is very simple. The answer is yes. So what you do is, before whatever Excel file you have, you just import it in here. Alternatively, you can drag and drop an Excel file in here. Let me just show you what that would look like. You can just drag and drop an Excel file into this area. I'm just going to give an example. So I'm dragging, dropping an Excel file now, and it's uploading now to Google Data Studio, to Google Drive. And you see here in the file that it says data per room, and then you can see the Excel symbol there, the X. And then I just I open this. Now it's still in Excel format, but if I type here, open with Google Sheets, the Excel file that I just uploaded will automatically convert to Google Sheets. And once it's in a Google Sheet format, I can use Google Data Studio to analyze it. So yes, you can directly use Excel files to upload it. And another way is that you can convert Excel to CVS format, comma value delimited. So you can use that format to upload things directly. But yes, I hope that answers your question. All right. So to get back to this dashboard here, you will see that it's highly customizable. Let me just open this. Okay, so you can easily share things. Another things I would like to show, that rather than sharing it by using anyone can view, you can also easily share it by embedding it. So embedding means that you take an object you created for the internet and put it on a website in such a way that from the website you immediately see the object. The most common way people see embedded things is often through YouTube videos. So you will go on a website that is not YouTube, but you will see a YouTube video that says play, and you can play it right away on that website. And that is called embedding. The same principle you can do with Google Data Studio by embedding it. So I'll show you guys what an embedded website look like. I have here an example website. It's called dushimindset.com. And as you can see here, we're on the website, dushimindset.com. And in this website is embedded the report I have from Google Data Studio. So in the case of CHATA, for example, or if you have a company, you can always just make a Google Data Studio report and then embed this report on dushimindset.com or on your website.com, I mean. So that's also another way that you can share Google Data Studio reports very easily. So it's really, really easy to share information. And whatever you share, so whatever report you share, the users cannot access the source data. So your source data is still safe from unwanted intrusion, or people cannot see information that you don't make available to them. So if I do not want, for example, the names of individual customers available in my report, I just make my report in such a way that you don't see the names, for example, but you can see the other data. So this allows for a very flexible way to share reports. Okay. You can also use editing, right? So when you share reports, you can also allow other people to edit. So let's say if you have two colleagues in the same company and you both work on the dashboards, you can also decide to cooperate together and edit a document together. So we're going back now to the dashboard we are creating. So this is the example dashboard again. An important thing to know about is the difference between view and edit mode. So here we have here in the right upper corner, it's called view. Now I'm in edit mode. And this is what it looks like to the viewer. So in view mode, it looks like this. You see it's much cleaner, much more to the point. And in view mode, if I hover over data, you will see that I will get the details per information spot, right? So this is in view mode. And as a report editor, you will be constantly switching back between view and edit mode so that you know what it will look like for your user. So I'm going to switch back now to edit mode. Okay. So let's say the first thing we want to do is to have some nice looking aesthetic things in it. Oh, yeah. Somebody answered the question. So let's say if you want to import a logo, I can just go here and add an image. So I just drag and drop an image. I go here to select the file. And I click here CHATA logo. And now you see that I have a logo there, right? So I can just make the logo as big as I want. I'm just going to make it a little smaller and put the logo here in the left upper place. So it looks more professional. So I would always recommend use the company logo to make it look better. Okay, so it says here a question from Furi Seuters. Is there a connection between the original Excel file and the data you uploaded? No, there is no connection. What I would recommend in such a case, rather than using an Excel file, use the Google Sheet file. So for some organizations, they only exclusively use Google Sheets. Or you can upload any new additions to your data. So let's say if I add 5 new rows of data to my Excel file, I just copy paste those 5 new rows and paste those in the Google Sheet, and the Google Sheet will automatically update the Google Data Studio. But there is no direct integration between Excel and Google Sheets, but you can always move the data from one to the other very easily. Okay. So you see here, now let's say in our example here, I'm going to delete some fields. I'm going to change this one back to a bar. Let's say now we have some core metrics here for our hotel business information, but what I want to know is I want some calculated fields. So I'm going to use now a different source here. So this is, let's say, for the year, the industry information. But now I want to have a different file that depicts information of particular hotels. So as you might have seen in the dashboard here, I have one tab called industry information that provides the information over all the hotels in the country. But then let's say I'm a hotel owner and I own 3 hotels. My holding has 3 hotels. Then I want to see, for example, the profit per hotel. So that's our next part we're getting into now. And you'll see here that the first thing we need to do in this oversight, we need to create a new data source. So I'm going to click here on add data. And again, Google Sheets, because it's a separate file. Remember, I have it here. It's called hotel performance. That's the file we will be using now. So I go back to my sheets here and I look up hotel performance. It's right here. I add it. And now this information here is part of my source. So now if I select, if I make another graph, let me just quickly make another table. Then I can select here the source that I want to use. So you see here now, this table here only deals with the information that comes from the hotel performance field. I'm gonna make some real quick changes here. I'm gonna add expenses to it and revenues. Let's just drag and drop. And as you can see here, you see 3 different hotels now that we see here. Again, you can look in the source data to see what the source data looks like. You see there are different hotels here, and there are different departments for the different hotels, and there are revenues and expenses and the year. So what I want to do now is I want to create a calculated item. I want to create the profit per hotel. So that you do by creating a new field here. So we create a new field here. It's called create new field. And we're going to call that field profit. And the formula for profit is revenues. You see revenues appearing there, which means that the field revenues will be selected, minus expenses. So now profit is revenues minus expenses, and I click on save. Now we have a new field called profit. You see it's right here. I drag and drop profit over here, and you'll see that we now have the new calculated field called profit. Again, I can style all kinds of things by changing the colors of my table. I can do all kinds of things with that to make it look nicer any way I want. All right, any questions so far? So let's say now in our case, the amounts we see here in profit, I want them to present as dollars. You see there are now figures. I can always change that by going to the field settings, and I go here to profit. It says here now a number, but I want it to show as a currency, more specifically as a United States dollar. So I change it here, I click on it, and you now see that it has changed to dollar signs. The same thing you can do with percentages. So in our example of this hotel occupancy data, which is again a different source, you see here is the source. We can select, for example, occupancy. But occupancy now presents as 1.4, 1.82, etc. But we don't need information like that. We need it to present itself as a percentage. So I do it the same way again. I go to occupancy, I click here, numeric, and I change it to %. And I click on done. And you see there's something still wrong with the information here, because I aggregated the information in quarters. It is now summing up the different percentages. So if I have 50% and 60%, it will sum them up, but I don't want that. So I want to change the information here to averages. So I can always just go here. Now it's this default status is sum, but I can change it here to average. And you will see the graph automatically, the table automatically updates itself to whatever I put it to. These I also want an average. And this one I also want an average. So now we can see the average information for these for this information here. As you can notice, another feature that was added to this report is that you can drill down. So let's say our user here is looking at this report, which is now aggregated at a year level. But I added here a drill down feature. So we go drill down from year to year quarter. So now it's in year and quarters. And you can scroll down to this table to get more details. And let's say quarter information isn't enough for me. I want to know it on month. The user can also drill down now to months, right? So you can drill, and I'm going back up and down. So features like that, you can easily just implement here in Google by adding here a drill down dimension. So you see here it says drill down, and I can say activate this drill down dimension, and I can easily just add new dates here. So I can just add a new date, and I say the first one was, let's say the first one has to be a year, but then the next one I will make year quarter. You can see I'm still using the same source information, so they're both from the date field. So date, and here's date represented as year, date is represented as month, and we're going to drag one quarter, I'm going to drag one more, and I'm going to label that for year month. So now we have year, quarter, year, month activated for this year. And if you check it out in view mode, you can see that you can drill down now. So now we have activated drill down. This is a very useful feature whenever you're reporting to people. They sometimes want to know more details, or they don't trust the figures of something, or they want to investigate a certain month in more detail. So you can always use the drill down option to allow your users to do that. So we're going back in edit mode now. So in our example that we put here of our dashboard is I have the hotel information here. This hotel information here displays data that for me is not very useful. And why is that the case? Because let's say I'm the holding and I'm only interested in high level information. But you see the information here has different names. So you see, for example, that there are different names for restaurant here. You have here restaurant pizza, which is only from business hotel. Then we have beachside and bars, which is only from beach view hotel. We have main restaurant, which is only from deluxe hotel. We have fancy restaurant, which is only from beach view hotel. And that level of detail for me as a big owner might not be relevant. So I want this information all put together to be called food and beverages. That is for me important. I want to know how is the food and beverage section doing of a hotel. I do not care that one calls it fancy restaurant, the other one calls it beachside bar and bites. So for that purpose, we're going to use a different formula here that automatically relabels information that you put in. So we're going here to profit per hotel. And what I did here is I created a calculated field. As you can see here, it says food and beverage. It's a lot nicer. Oh, another example I forgot to mention. We have here, one is called events, and the other one calls it parties, conferences, and weddings. But for the holding, it does. We just want to call them all events, right? So we're going to regroup certain information in bigger categories to make them more easily to digest. So that you can see here. Here you can see we only have 4 categories, even though the different hotels call their restaurant business different. So what we did here is I'm going into edit mode. And what I did for this particular table here is I created a new calculated field. Remember how I just showed you guys how to create a new calculated field called profit? The same way you can make a calculated field. And this calculated field here is called department 2. You can see here it's called department 2. And department 2 formula looks like this. If I open the formula bar here, you'll see what the formula looks like. This is the name of the field. And the formula uses a case formula. And the case, what does it do? It will look into your data source to see information that matches what I'm looking for. So the cases that I'm looking for. So here I'm looking for case when regular expression matches column name. The column name is called department, right? Because this is our column. We're looking in this column here. Department. When I find, so I'm basically telling Google Data Studio, whenever you see this word or this word, because one of them was called snacks and bites and did not have the word restaurant in it. So whenever you see restaurant or bites, then call it food and beverage. And then the other one is called, whenever you see parties or events, then call it events. Why parties and events? Again, because if we look at our data here, I'm going to go in filter mode really quick. If we look at our data here, you will see that this one is called parties. Business hotel calls its events department parties, conferences, and weddings. And the other hotel calls it events. And we just want them all to be called events rather than have different names for the different features. So again, the formula is doing exactly that for us. That we have when parties or events, then events, or else. Else means if any other variable that is not defined, then call it department. And with department, I mean it will look up any value in that column and just provide you the original value. So for example, the value accommodation is called the same for all the hotels. So it will just produce accommodation there. So I close this formula here. And then I use this formula here called department2 to segregate my data, right? Is that clear? Let me just create a new field, show you a new page, so you get an idea what that would look like. So it's hotel performance, that is our data source. And when I use department 1, you will see, let me just move this. You will see that in department 1, it uses these names. Whereas in department level 2, oh, getting this confused now, let me use a different table. There we go. So here you see the different names. Now it's food and beverage, whereas if I use department 1, you will see it has the longer names that the hotels give me, fancy restaurant, beachside. So I created a new calculated field. And that feature is very useful. And it is also very useful because any new data that I will enter in here will automatically refresh itself. So if I enter here 2020, and I enter here Dennis Hotel, and I call this one My Big Restaurant, nice food, and a really large number, and some numbers here. Then the data in our dashboard will automatically also update itself. And even though you know that this is a new entry, simply because it has the word restaurant in it, Google Data Studio will automatically relabel it as food and beverage. So you can just keep dumping new data into your Excel sheet and Google Data Studio will automatically read it according to the rules you have defined. So if I go back now to profit per hotel, let's see, then I will refresh the data. You will see that there's a new hotel there. It's called Dennis Hotel, and the profit is $100,000. And this is, and you see it has automatically put the restaurant, so this name I wrote here, My Big Restaurant, simply because it has the word restaurant in it, it automatically has sorted it into the food and beverage section. And you can see it has created a new hotel. So it's a very useful feature. I'm gonna delete this one. Okay, I'll just leave it there so you can check it out for yourself. So you can see here, any data that I add to the sheets will automatically update themselves. All right, so another interesting feature of Google Data Studio is, say that now I have this report here and I go in view mode. So let me just make another chart here. I create a pie chart. And in the pie chart, I put expenses. So I want to know which hotel is the most expensive. If I go now in view mode, you see I can hover over the chart, but nothing happens. See, everything is still static. But if I go apply a filter, I can apply an interactive filter. It's a nice feature. I can go in edit mode, click on this, and I scroll down and I click here on interactions. I click on apply filter. So I click on apply filter. And now if you go back in view mode, if I go here and I click on Deluxe Hotel, you will see that the other information in the chart will adjust itself automatically to whatever I've clicked on in the filter. So now I click on Business Hotel, you'll see it changes itself to Business Hotel. So this is used to make reports even more interactive, more easy to use for people, that they can easily zoom in on the information that is relevant to them. I'm getting a warning here saying my internet is unstable. I just got a question. Okay, Ronald Liu says save the pie for dessert. So there's always discussion about whether or not you should use pie charts, but that was a function of the pie chart. I hope I'm still online here, because I just got a message here that says my internet is unstable. So please send me something in the questions and answer section so I know that you guys are still there. All right. So now we're going to another interesting feature of Google Data Studios, which is called data blending. And data blending is where you, okay, great, I see it works fine, good. So data blending means that you combine multiple data sources into one table or one chart using data blending feature. In structured query language, this is known as left outer join, or at least the type of data blending that Google Data Studios offers is left outer join. So that's the only type of data blending you can do in Google Data Studios. You can do no inner join or right outer join, only the left outer join. So for those of you familiar with those terms, you can only do that. So what we do then, just to show you guys what I mean with that, is that in our dashboard here, if you go to Hotel versus Industry tab, you will see that I have combined two different sources together. Let me just, so this here information. This information here comes from two sources. One is the source that is called Hotel Industry Data, so hotel industry-wide. And the other source is called Data Per Room Deluxe Hotel, which looks like this, which is this source here. So let's say I'm a hotel owner, and this is the hotel that I own. And I'm also keeping track of the occupancy rate of my hotel. I'm also keeping track of the daily average rate of my hotel. But I want to compare this with the industry average. And these data sources are constantly being updated. So my own financial department is constantly updating the table for my own hotel. But CHATA, for example, is constantly updating the table for the industry-wide revenues. And what I want to do then is I want to have them both being put in separate sheets, so two different Google Sheets. But I want to blend the data together and create a new table. So we'll go here and we see here that this table here is a combination of two separate fields, two tables. So you see your industry occupancy, deluxe hotel occupancy, deluxe hotel average day rate, industry, and also a difference. So I'm just going to show you guys how that is done in Google Data Studio. So say we have this example that I showed you guys earlier here of the hotel, but now I'm going to add blend data. So I'm going to click on blend data, and you see here's my original source, hotel performance. Different example because I need to compare the industry occupancy rate with the hotel one. So I'm going to change this data source to I'm just going to start a new one here. I'm going to connect here to hotel performance. No, I need hotel industry data. That is the source I want to connect, add to report. And in this source here, I want to blend data. So I'm going to click here on blend data. And you see here, this is the hotel industry data, but I want to add another source, which is sourced from the Deluxe Hotel data. So I'm going to look for that data source. Here, it's called data per room deluxe. So you see here, we now have on the left hotel industry data, and on the right data per room deluxe hotel, sheet 1. And what is necessary, you need a join key. So in this case, they both have in common, they both have the thing called date in common. So from this one on the left, I want the average daily rate as my information. I'm just going to drag and drop the information I need. And the same thing for this one here. So I'm also dragging and dropping the information. I can leave this one out. And I press save. And you will now see I have now a blended data between these two. So now we have a new table that is combining data from different sources. And if I update any of the two tables, this table in Google Data Studio will automatically update itself as well. You can see here the rates. I want here to create a new calculated field because I want to compare my average daily rate versus the Deluxe Hotel average daily rate. It's the same way that we create a new field. Has to create a new field. Right. So I go here, add a metric, and I can create a new field called, let's say, difference ADR. And difference ADR is Deluxe Hotel average daily rate minus average daily rate, apply. And then I have a new metric here. You can see on the right here. I'm going to delete a few so it's easier to see. It's called difference ADR. And I can do the same thing. I can create graphs with this information. So I'm going to create this quick graph. Let's say I have all this information here together. And I want to now create a graph. So I'm just going to change this here to a graph, a time chart. Oh, this is not working. I need to add a time value first. But I'll just go back because we're running out of time. I'll just go back to this table here where it's all done, nice and done. So I can just show you guys what I wanted to show is that here, you can see on the left axis, y-axis, we use the ADR rate, which is in dollars and goes from, it's in the $100 to $300 range. Whereas the percentages, the occupancy rate is only between the 0 and the 100% rate. So I have the two different axes, which you can change by simply changing here your information in the style part. You can then decide here what, let me just show you here. You can click axis left or right. You can change that type of information. You can decide where your information will come. Another feature I would like to show you guys, so that's the last feature before I go to questions and answers, is that you can add optional metrics. So you see in this figure here, I have optional metrics here selected. And optional metrics allows for your user, so you can see I have a bunch of optional metrics, allows for your user to click here, optional metrics, and then find whichever one is relevant for them, because they might not need all the ones that I put in there, right? So you see now it only has one line. But if I want to compare only occupancy, I can use it like this. So this is how you can use optional metrics too. You can change the settings of this chart, so you can make sure this button is always there, or you can make it, now it's on kind of like a hide mode, so it will hide when I'm not hovering over it. Or if I want to make it even more simpler for my users, I can just add a text anywhere. And I will put click here, choose parameter options. And I make an arrow, for example, like this, and I make it a little big. And then I can also say make an arrow. So I can always draw an arrow there. And I can also create a circle around it so that it's really obvious that people have to click there to get their optional metrics. So by simply putting text like this, you can also instruct your users, your consumers, to use these charts better. Okay, so that was my short introduction to Google Data Studio. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you see the value of this tool. It's a fairly easy tool to work with, very simple to work with. And I have here some limitations of Google Data Studios if you're interested in specific limitations, but I'd like to open the floor now to any questions and answers you guys might have about this software. It's a great software. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dennis. Very informative, very insightful. Let's see if we have any questions. Guys, feel free to drop your question into the Q&A section or the chat section as well. We will be monitoring both.
Oh, there's a question. Let's see. So the question from Ronald is, how long do you estimate to learn this tool? I would say between 2 to 3 days. You would have to get a good grip of it. But I would say, yeah. So maybe in terms of hours, I would say about 18 hours, and then you can already make tools like I have here, which is, I think, very fast to do compared to other software I've worked with. Yeah. But you have to have some understanding of data. So you'd have to know about, let's say, pivot tables, charts, aggregation levels. So you would need some theoretical understanding of data, but this tool is meant for people that already work with spreadsheets. So you would already, the assumption is you already know about data in general. Any more questions? So yeah. I also saw, maybe I wanted to get also to, oh, thank you for Arminda. I would also like to get to the part about the earlier question we had about, can we automatically update Excel files, etc. There are other tools for that, but that is not the purpose of this information here. But there's a software called Bigquery, which is a data warehousing platform that Google offers. And your company could always also choose to use Bigquery. So that would mean that every night, for example, at 12 p.m. at night, all the data that has been generated by your company will then upload itself automatically to Bigquery. And then you can automatically import that to Google Data Studio. So that's how you would do it if you do it on a large scale, you would have to use a Bigquery in between. Now I'm just using Google Sheets. How would you compare Power BI to GDS? Oh yes, Power BI to GDS, I would say GDS has less features to Power BI and doesn't have the very strong statistical tools yet. So I don't have a lot of experience with Power BI, but I have a lot of experience with SAS, statistical analytical systems. And I would say if you want to do statistical analysis and certain statistical tests, let's say ANOVA test or Pearson correlation or multiple regression, things like that are not suitable to do in Google Data Studios. It's more to just present data rather than doing complex statistical information. So I'm going to answer the question by Ronald. He is asking, can you copy paste a visual to Google Data Studios? Yes, I'm just going to show you. I forgot to mention that. I'm going back in view mode. Let's say my person, you can just right click here on the Google, so I'm in screen sharing mode again, and you can just download the information in Excel, export to sheets. You can go here, industry information. You can see here in industry information, I have different drill down options, right? So you can drill down, and whatever of these options I select, you see now there's a lot of information. I can always just decide to download it. So I can download it in Excel format. Another option that you can do with Google Data Studio is in the sharing option. I don't know exactly where the option is, but you can have this thing called send as PDF. So you can program information, your data studios, that it will send weekly PDFs to, for example, your colleagues. So then it will just make the dashboard will be sent as a PDF file to your colleagues on a weekly basis, for example, if they prefer to have a non-interactive dashboard. So you can program that, and you can just download them as PDF. And the user can also download the tables they see as Excel files. Okay, the next question, a company that doesn't want its data stored in the cloud can still work with Google data? No, your data has to be in the cloud. It has to be accessible for Google Data Studios to work. So it is fully cloud-based. Yeah, but again, I would say Bigquery is a good example of a large-scale data warehousing system, but it has to be in the cloud, yes. That was a question by Raymond Maria. Needs to be in the cloud. Okay, Ronald asked, can you copy-paste a visual from GDS, etc., to Word? I haven't looked into that option, but I would say, first of all, you can always make a print screen of it, right? You can just make a print screen, copy paste the print screen, paste that in Word. Maybe that's too simple of a question, or do you mean really having it import as an interactive feature? Because obviously it's not going to work interactive because Word, I don't think Word directly connects to Google Data Studios like that, but you can always copy paste the image into it. But I must say, I haven't been following all the features of Microsoft Word. Maybe Microsoft Word has online cloud integration too, and I don't follow that. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Okay, so let me check that, see if that works. No, I don't see that option that you're talking about. Maybe it works if I'm in edit mode. Let me see if that works. Let me just check really quickly. No, if I just tried it out by clicking in edit mode. If I click on the image and paste it in Word, it will give me the link to the Google Data Studio. But even then, I'm pretty certain that if you embed it as a document in Words, it's going to present as a file, because I'm certain that Word also allows for embedding features. So then you would use the embedding feature of Google Data Studio and then embed it as an embedded document in your. So the question, anonymous attendee, can you add also non-Google email accounts? For example, your own organizational accounts to your distribution list? No, so Google only allows two things. It's either you share with everybody, and everybody can access it, or you share privately with a select number of Google accounts. So when it comes to private sharing, it is only Google accounts that you can share with. One way you can work around this, so one way is that you can, sometimes you have whole universities that all use Google. Your email address does not necessarily have to have Gmail at the end, right? So you have to be part of the Google Suite family. It's a technical story, but you can have it, but you have to be somehow involved with Google. Another way you can work around it is, for example, if I have a team and I create a dashboard, I create two accounts. I create one to edit the account and one to view the account, one to view the dashboard. And the viewing dashboard, I give that password to everybody. So I say, all my colleagues, just go to this email address I created. It's called, or I just sent them the link to the Google Data Studio, and they log on and they type in the name of the email address that I gave them, so the viewing account, and they can log in with the password I provide them. So in that way, by using, you could say, a semi-public email address that I only share with my colleagues, I can still have a somewhat private way, but they would have to log in at some point. Yeah. I hope that's clear. So that you just create a dummy account, you could say, that's only used for viewing purposes, and you share viewing rights only with that account, and then you share with your colleagues the password and email address to that account, and then they can always just, whenever they go to your link, they can just type in the password and email address, and then they will immediately see the report. That's one way you can keep it private while sharing it with people that do not have Google accounts. That's one way you could do it. All right, so I see no more questions. So I hope this lecture was informative. Feel free to check out the links I provided. You can always go in there and check for yourself at your own pace. And then, yeah, experiment. I hope you experiment with this and then see how it works for you. I find it very useful to present data in a very easy and simple way, and share it in a very easy way, because you just need to send people the link and they can look at it in a very easy way with people. So thank you for your information. Thank you for your attendance, and I hope you all have a good time experimenting with the software. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dennis. Very clear, straight to the point, great presentation. I would like to invite everybody to join us tomorrow. We have two more webinars for this week. The first one will be about the new, actually the Caribbean travel trends, presented by Condé Nast and Alexander Galarraga from Booking Success. So make sure to sign up for that webinar. And then to finish the day, we have the story of Henry's Gin, presented by the founder, Henry van der Kwast. So make sure to sign up, and we will see you tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, yes. Have a great day.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.